I had to pull up the video. We have to play it.
Oh, yeah, we got to watch this.
We just got to play it.
We have a shortage of workers in our country, and you see even in Florida, some of the farmers and the growers saying, why are you shipping these immigrants up north? We need them to pick the crops down here.
I just love that she's like,
wait a second. We need them to pick the crops is like the permanent perennial Democrat talking point. It goes all the way back to the founding of the Democrat Party. We need them to pick the crops. It's always been the issue for Democrats.
It's true.
It never changed.
It's just remarkable to me that she's basically saying right now to the press and everyone else, a group of farmers said, we are employing people illegally who entered the country illegally. Please don't take these people away from us. And there's just so much here where it's like, well, Nancy, as an officer of the government, maybe you could inform law enforcement that crimes are being committed and they're requesting of you to assist them in the crimes being committed. And your only response is to be like, they like it. That's just the people who are coming. And you earlier in the show, you said criminal migrant.
Criminal migrant. Because they broke our laws.
Right. And that's like, you know, I hear a lot from the left. They're like, no one's illegal. And I'm like, that's a good point. A person isn't illegal, but they can be criminals. And if you break the law and you're here, you're a criminal migrant. That makes sense.
Yes.
So she's actually here arguing for the law to be broken. It's I don't know, chaos. What was the word we were talking about when the cities are decay?
Degradation.
It doesn't mean you're a bad person. I live in a completely Cuban it's a Cuban neighborhood, right? Tampa's the number one by city population, the number one landing place for Cuban migrants. And I assume most of them were not here legally, right? They came from Cuba. There was a lot of them, and they came illegally. Those people are the best patriots, man. Those people are awesome. Well, I live in Tampa's an amazing community. If you ever go to Ybor City in Tampa, get a hand-rolled cigar, get a proper Cuban coffee. It looks like Havana should look without the communism.
I don't think people should be illegally entering the country. Right. But I will say I have infinitely more respect for illegal immigrants fleeing communism. Mm-hmm. And even the migrant from Honduras who's like, I want Buffalo Wild Wings. Coming to America, I have more respect for them than the leftists who are like, America is evil and racist.
Yes.
Now, I'm not happy that they break the law to come here because they want Buffalo Wild Wings. As for the people fleeing communism, fleeing here and then applying for asylum, I get. And hopefully they get it because communism sucks. But you have too many people in this country who just outright hate it, despite the fact that everyone's fleeing to get here.
I mean, I call them criminal migrants for that exact reason. I'm not trying to say that anyone should break our laws to come here. You weren't invited. And by the way, this is Democrat law. This was passed and ratified by Joe Biden, of all people, in the Senate. Where if you cross our border illegally, it is your duty to turn yourself in immediately to Border Patrol and then to essentially like surrender yourself, right, to authorities. That is the law of the land. So it is a legal act. It is a felony. It is a federal felony to cross our border illegally, and that is the black and white felony. Law of the land. So Joe Biden is breaking the law. This is a law, of course, that he ratified because you re-up this and then you re-ratify. This is the Immigration Act of like 1964, 1963. I can't remember. But anyway, I mean, again, it's a criminal act. That's why we call him you're a criminal migrant.
1965, Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965.
Yep.
It's reminiscent of the slave trade, the African slave trade. People are coming over. Then it was legal what they were doing, highly amoral, you could argue, but they were shipping humans over in chains and then putting them on the plantation to work for low wages. These people are coming across illegally, whether they're being trafficked across like the slaves were of the African slave trade, or if they're coming over their own will and then they're working for cheap labor. Like, it's very similar. Are they going to then, I don't want to be cynical about it, man, but I'm like, in 200 years, are their ancestors going to be asking for reparations because they were poor? They came from poverty. Like, I don't know, man, but they're not bound in chains. That's the difference. Is they're here because it's better than where they were, which is a little.
A lot of them were also working illegally. A lot of them are being taken advantage of. A lot of multinational corporations use them and depend on them to get rich, while of course not following the regulations, not following the rules, not even paying them minimum wage in many instances. So who's the real winner here? A lot of the big top multinational corporations, as of course wages go down because there's an influx of workers. Housing goes up as of course there's less housing. And who loses? The blue collar, the average American, the person who is here, who came here without the right paperwork, who of course is going to be a slave of the multinational corporations taking advantage of them.
I think this statement from Pelosi should be probable cause enough to check the documentation of her plantation.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Plantation Pelosi. That's why we call her Plantation Pelosi.
Yeah.
And also, if the people that want like reparations or are upset about the African American slave trade and the history and everything that's going on right now with racism, you got to turn your focus on the illegal immigration racket in the United States, because those are the modern day slaves. If you want to fix the past, start with the present.
There's still slavery right now in Libya because of the U.S. overthrow of that government there, which Hillary Clinton orchestrated, celebrated, and now Africans who are trying to go to the Middle East are literally being put as and sold as slaves inside of Libya right now as we're speaking.
So, like, are you still a slave if your chains are invisible?
No, there's real chains in Libya.
Okay,
in
so
Libya, there's real chains.
I would argue that a lot of the people that are coming across the border are based on our border visit down to Yuma, Arizona, and we went and spent 2 days in Yuma, Arizona, in the Yuma sector, and we talked with the sheriff there, and he drove us around. We got in our little truck, we drove along the border, we drove along Trump's wall. It was glorious, and then it just ends, right? It just ends. Part of it is because it ends because of an Indian reservation, and they're working with the tribe to get it built on there. Part of it ends because Joe Biden's just letting the wall rust in the middle of the desert. The sheriff drives us to the middle of where they cross, and he says, "That's the rape tree. Go over to the rape tree. That's how the women pay their toll because they don't have any money to get into America." So in case you're wondering how this works, go over there. And we go over there, there's like ripped clothing, there's like panties, there's like all this horrible stuff. There's little children's toys, like every little stuffed animals. It's sickening. It is repulsive.
A lot of it is...
and it is the largest human slave trade, I would argue, because these people then are coming here as indentured, to Luke's point, indentured like servants to work for corporations, and they get shipped off to Iowa hog factory, right? They already have like their papers, right? That's where they go.
They work for the coyotes.
Yo, it is the world's largest human smuggling operation or slave trade, depending on if you think chains are invisible.
The coyotes tell some of these people, not every single one works this way. They'll say it's $2,000 or $3,000 to get your passage paid for, and if you don't have it, you'll work to pay it off. So these people are coming in, they're becoming indebted to these human traffickers. Then they have to work and send money back. I remember I once went to a restaurant, and I'll keep the details more vague, but people who worked there were all clearly migrants, and someone got really mad the tip wasn't big enough. And it was because we didn't have a server. We come into a restaurant with no server, we order up at the counter, we sit down, and then afterwards they demanded a tip, and I'm like, if we had a waiter, like I usually tip really well. They started yelling at us. And so what I was told from someone is that the people who come here, they're indentured servants. They get paid, quote unquote, but they have this extra legal system where back home, there's rules and laws that apply to them here in America that don't apply in America. But it's like, we paid $5,000 to move you to America. You're going to work for our company that our people own. We're going to pay you, and then you're going to send the money back to us or else. So if they need to make a certain amount of money every week to send back home to pay off the debt to get them to move to America. So they get really mad when you're not giving them more money than they deserve.
The or else part makes them slaves for sure. Like if they are afraid for their families' lives or afraid they're going to get hunted down if they don't work, then they're in a state of slavery. Yeah.
Isn't the number one source of income in Mexico remittances from the United States? Did I read that somewhere?
Wow, is that true?
I believe that.
How does that work?
So it's money coming from the United States for people who are sending it back to Mexico. So that's the number one source of income, or a very high level source of income. I would like to have an article to check that, but we've read it on the show before.
It's got to be wire transfers and stuff. Do they track it? How's that? They just let it go?
Shoving dollar bills in an envelope.
I guess they're doing cash too, yeah.
I love
Cash,
how
Western Union, Bitcoin, all of it.
I love how these like urban millennial liberal types have started colonizing Mexico City. It's true. I mean, you saw the story. They're like all moving down there, and they're like, "I just love these tacos. The rent is so cheap." And the locals are just like, "This is terrible. You don't speak our language, and you're ruining our favorite spots." Yeah, that story was something else.
Yeah, a plague.
Dude,
they've done that to a lot of American cities.
The woke liberals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, try to go have like a nice time in LA or in Detroit or into Chicago. You're from Chicago.
Yeah.
And right, like talk about another ghost town like Michigan Avenue. Like
I mean, I haven't been there.
The stores are closed down on Michigan Avenue.
Oh man.
It's like, well, I mean, you can't. There's only so many cars you can drive into the storefronts, right, during the riots, and then have like 150 people run in.
That video where the guys are shooting at the window to try and break into like a Dolce store or whatever it's called.
I mean, it's decay. What about what is happening in Philadelphia? Why is every
Oh,
other video,
man.
every video I see of something awful, like some type of execution or some like robbery in broad daylight? Yesterday morning, top of my Twitter feed was some mom, some Ring doorbell camera of some mom. She's getting her kids ready. She's like a suburban mom getting her kids into the minivan, and some dude carjacks her with her kids in the minivan.
And he had like a handgun with a 50-round drum in it or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yo,
Some ridiculous weapon.
well, as a parent, I got 2 little girls. Like as a parent, that is like it's hard to think of something worse than that. Actually, someone like grabbing my car keys and running away with my kid.
Dude, we used to play at the park around the corner from my house growing up. This is like in 1980s, early 90s. And we'd just go. There'd be like 4 kids, age 9 to 11, playing on the swing set. No parents. I was just thinking a couple nights ago how in the modern day to consider letting your kids go off for hours at a time. Like, well, first of all, I can't constantly be watching the kids 24/7. So yeah, they're going to be off on their own. But like, and there's a fence around the backyard. But like, can they go to the park? I don't know. I was in a suburb, but even today, like,
What state?
Ohio, Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio.
No, it's getting crazy now. There's a bunch of story. There was one story I read about a mom had Child Protective Services called on her because her kid was playing in the front yard by himself, and he was like 7 years old.
Yep.
When I was 7, I was gone. I was out. It's like, come back when the streetlights come on.
I can handle like woke trash, like protective service crap, but it's the crime. It's that someone would get carjacked in their driveway. Is that where the mom was in her driveway?
In her driveway. You can see the Ring doorbell cameras. I'm not. I don't have it in front of me, but it was.
Do you guys see those?
Are they legally allowed to carry in that area?
in Philadelphia? No way.
That's freaking crazy.
Yeah, no way.
That's like a revolt waiting to happen.
And this is why Dr. Oz, might actually win.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.